This cookie, with the flavors of almond and the tang of cream cheese, with the added texture of the coconut and the drizzle of white chocolate, has been a family favorite in our house for years.
To make these jeweled coconut cookies, you will need 1/3 of a cup of softened butter, 3 ounces of softened cream cheese, 3/4 of a cup of white sugar, 1 large egg at room temperature, 2 teaspoons of orange juice, 1 teaspoon of almond extract, 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 3 cups of sweetened shredded coconut. You'll also need 3/4 of a cup of raspberry preserved, slightly warmed. And to finish these cookies, you will need 1/2 cup of shredded coconut, 3/4 of a cup of raspberry preserves, 1/2 teaspoon of coconut oil, and 1/4 of a cup of white chocolate chips.
Your first step is to add your salt and baking powder to your flour and mix it well, and we'll just put this aside. I've added our softened butter and cream cheese into a large mixing bowl, adding our sugar, and now using an electric mixer, I'm going to beat this for about 3 to 5 minutes. Butter and cream cheese is nicely blended and nice and fluffy. Add your orange juice, your almond extract, and your 1 egg, and continue beating for about another minute. Gradually add in your flour mixture in about 2 additions and mix well in between. Once your mixture is thoroughly mixed with the flour, it's time to stir in a couple of additions, the 3 cups of shredded coconut. Now simply cover it with a sheet of plastic, and this needs to refrigerate for about 30 minutes before we scoop it into cookies and bake it. When you're ready to start baking, line your baking sheet with a sheet of parchment paper and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Once your dough has been refrigerated for at least 30 minutes, using a scoop, just scoop out your balls of cookie dough, place them in the coconut, roll them in the coconut, and now place them 2 inches apart on your parchment-lined baking sheet. Once your balls have been formed and rolled in coconut, using a wooden spoon, just make an indentation into each ball. Some of these will close up while in the baking process, but we'll open them up again after we take them out of the oven. Now into our preheated 350-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're just golden brown around the edges. This recipe makes about 3 dozen cookies. As always, when working with white chocolate, add about a 1/2 teaspoon, in this case, about a 1/2 teaspoon of coconut oil to a 1/4 cup of white chocolate, and heat on top of the stove, stirring until the white chocolate is melted. Our cookies have baked for about 8 minutes, and now they've cooled for about 1 minute. Using a teaspoon, I'm going in and I'm just going to enlarge the indentation before I add the raspberry jam. You want to warm your jam just a little bit. It'll make it easier to work with. And using a small spoon, you just want to add a dollop of raspberry jam. You can use strawberry if you like, or really anything that you would want to. I like the raspberry. And then these need to cool completely, and we'll finish them off with a white chocolate drizzle. Heat gently until your chocolate is completely melted, and now it's time to drizzle our cookies. I like using a fork to drizzle the top of my cookies. So just dipping my fork in my melted chocolate and drizzling my cookies with this delicious white chocolate. And that's all there is to making these beautiful cookies.
The red raspberry jam adds a festive flair to these delicious tender coconut cookies. Drizzled with white chocolate, these cookies will dazzle any holiday cookie plate and sure to become a family favorite.